Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first day of what is what we hope to be a really informative and interesting week for you all. We are starting off today with myself and Ella, Ross, Aidan O'Connell, and Tamara, who are going to be taking you through some elements of five-dimensional costing and that area quantity surveying that we need to have a look at. The next item we have up on Tuesday is going to be the Bim Gathering Awards. Now, this is a huge thing for us. As you know, we've had some fantastic speeches in the Bim gatherings over the last over the last while, particularly during lockdown. And I think it's fantastic we get to recognize the amazing work that's been carried out by the individuals you see on screen in front of you there at the moment. I would also point you at the CitA website, where you can access a number of these talks and get them via YouTube or whatever else, so you can watch them back. Something that's going to be of great use to us. On Wednesday, we're going to have another session chaired by David Burke, and David's going to be talking to Gary, Bobby Gallagher, and Connie Shield in and around things like remote site tracking, extracting COBE data, and all those fields that we really all, I think, have our issues from time to time on, and we need to, it's always good to hear from a few experts. That'll be followed on Thursday by Sean Carroll, and Sean is going to talk again about offsite solutions, and his crew will talk about modular construction, offsite solutions, and things like that. So Ger Fahy and Dara Ryan will be talking to you, as will Anna Bosch and Michael Martin. To close the week on Friday, we have Carol Dempsey from LYIT, and again, we're going to be talking about sustainable growth. Particularly Ingrid will be doing that with us, and Lisa Monaghan and Mary will be talking about the delivery of Horgan's Quay. So we've got a fantastic lineup for you this week, and we hope that you stay with us. Registration is still open, so please put it out far and wide. It's the more people we can speak to on these issues, the better for everyone. At the end of the day, the goal for all of us in CitA and in education, and indeed all of our speakers here today, is to try and make our working lives a little bit better and extract more value from the capabilities that we see within the BIM space. And indeed, when we look at BIM now, BIM is shifting well away from just design tool to project delivery tool. And the whole notion of virtual design and construction is becoming deeper and deeper embedded in our working methodologies. And in order for that to work, we need to bring on as many people as we can. So please, share far and wide. And we look forward to seeing you in the next talks. If that's okay, I think what I can do now is I'm going to move in very quickly into what's happening here at LIT. The first thing, I suppose, is that we're no longer LIT. We are now TUS, and in case you missed any of the news, that makes us, up until a couple of weeks ago, we were the newest university in the country. We have joined forces with Athlone. And for us here at TUS, this makes a huge difference to our delivery on a day-to-day basis. Now, we have had, and we continue to have, a number of courses being offered. For instance, we have Revit Architecture as a night course. We have Revit MEP as a night course, and we're furthering that development. In addition to that, we have embedded BIM now pretty deeply within all of our level 8 programs. And we've done this for quite some time. In fact, we were one of the first institutes to do so. Same thing up in Athlone, where they have, developed their construction management program to have a high digital focus on it, which again is meeting the needs of industry as it stands at the moment, and indeed into the future. In terms of future developments, what we're currently working on is a number of of routes to BIM, I suppose, to try and prepare more of those BIM techs, BIM managers, and VDC managers, which are going to be needed by the industry in the coming years. And indeed, they're pretty much demand there now. So we have quite a portfolio here in TUS, which I would ask you, go have a look us up at TUS.ie. If on the off chance you don't find the information you need there, we still have LIT and AIT.ie, though both of those domains are still active. There was, so as part of our transition, we're updating everything, as you can imagine. Some things have been slower to move than others, but certainly we're looking forward to working with you all in the future. With that, also in relation to training and things like that, we're very happy to speak to anyone in relation to that. CitA have a number of programs that they're involved in sponsorship with, and of course in TUS we have the same. So please feel free to look me up. I'm very easily found. You'll find me at paul.vesey@lit.ie or at TUS.ie, and indeed I'm all over LinkedIn as well. So easy to find us, easy to get in contact, and I would definitely urge you to do so. Now, I suppose the reason we're all here is to hear from our main speakers. I don't include myself amongst them. So I think at this point, I'm going to hand over to Elia, González, and Ross Griffin, who are talking to us today from the fifth dimension. So the fifth dimension have some really interesting 5D solutions, which I think we're all we'll be very interested to hear what you've got to say, guys. So look, Ross and Elia, take it away.
Sure, thanks for that.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Let me share my screen and we can dive into it. Let's see how we get up and running here. So can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So the fifth dimension, for those of you who attended the Bim Gathering back in September, you might have attended our presentation on the fifth dimension, and we're going to talk through it a little bit in more detail today, albeit we have only 20 minutes, and Paul has assured us that he will disconnect us if we go over time, so I better jump straight into it. Little bit of an introduction, I guess. First of all, my name is Ross Griffin, and I'm originally from Limerick, currently living in Limerick actually, and I'm the founder of Cosmos, who are a digital cost consultant. Our offices are based in Copenhagen, and recently we opened one in Limerick. And also the founder of the Fifth Dimension, which is a specialist cost data collection analytical cloud-based solution, and we're going to go through that obviously today. And also with me is my colleague Elia.
And I'm Elia, also founder of Cosmos and the Fifth Dimension, with a background as building engineer and specialized in the cost aspect of the project. I also developed a passion for digitalization and digitization and automation that requires standards and data processing and data analytics behind to actually achieve the potential of all this data. And it's part of what we are going to talk today, being construction, an industry that has a very low standardization, even though it's one of the fields and professions that has changed the least in centuries. We still build the same way we used to build with the same materials we used to.
So one of the questions we asked ourselves a few years ago when we were working on projects was like, how are we delivering our daily tasks? What tools are we using? Can we digitize the process? Can we improve it? Can we analyze it? And can we add value? So basically the challenge for us was digitizing the commercial management process so that the entire project cost evolution can be collected, reported, and stored in one cloud-based solution. And I suppose you could ask the question, who would be this software for, and we'll dig into it later, but especially when, as cost managers, cost consultants, working in the early stages of projects, working for developers, clients, and public institutions. The setting of the budget in the early stages is always challenging because of the lack of commercial data or accurate commercial data. So not only are we going to commercialize or automate or digitize the process for cost managers and quantity surveyors, but we will collect all that valuable data and information and store it.
We were putting a lot of effort in every project and working in many projects as we do as a cost specialist, and also feeling that all that effort was getting to nowhere. At some point it is static, and at some point all the value that all that effort could have was getting lost because it couldn't be reused or used in other projects. In the end, construction is ABC. ABC really is. There's very little difference between projects, no matter if it's infrastructure or buildings or you name it.
From a cost perspective, at least, you know, when you get to the granular levels, the processes that we implement and the information that we use is the same. So we challenged ourselves to see how we could somehow digitize these different aspects of our working day. It's just to clarify something here, the fifth dimension isn't an estimating tool. We're not trying to replace those very valuable estimating tools available where you can import 3D models and quantify and so on. What we're looking to do is digitizing the entire tracking and reporting system for our client and for ourselves as consultants. So taking the elements in front of us, budgets and estimates and cash flows and risk management and contracts and invoices, project information and time schedules and change management and value engineering logs, as well as benchmarking, and somehow trying to change from this disconnected elements of our daily working life and trying to connect them so that they're interrelatable and the information that you are collecting can be interrelated and analyzed and understood. And of course, the first task really in order for us to be able to collect information is standardization. So how do we improve our budget accuracy as well as our project controls while also storing valuable commercial information along the project lifecycle? So as I mentioned earlier on, budget accuracy in the early stages of projects is based on benchmarking, looking at historical project information, figuring out square meter prices, quality levels, location, all of these attributes and metrics that relate to the project that you want to build or that your client wants to build. And in order to be able to accurately advise clients in the early stage, you need to have accurate historical information in order to be able to estimate, analyze, and advise. And
it's about making decisions based on facts, right? Rather than make decisions based on experience or feelings, which is also valuable, yeah, your gut feeling, right? But if you can have the data to support it, then you're having one more argument to it.
Absolutely. And that's the key thing. It's removing the personal decision-making and making it more data-driven and factual. And by doing that, it becomes a very powerful decision because you can support it and back it up with this information. And of course, we don't want to retrofit and go back and collect historical or project information. Ideally, we want to collect it along the project lifecycle as a standard course of practice for ourselves as professional cost managers and quantity surveyors. And by doing that, it means that the byproduct of your daily working activity is actually data collection and data analytics. But it's digitizing those daily activities that allows you to collect this information. And we have the possibility now to move from an industry that has very poor data collection to actually having a national database or an international database for construction costs as we work on our projects and use the fifth dimension for controlling and reporting to our clients. It means we're also collecting this valuable information, and anybody that has access to the fifth dimension has also access to the database of information, meaning that any public authority that uses this platform will also have the possibility to create a national database for all construction costs for all the projects that they use the platform for, and that can be extremely powerful for the project, but also for the authority for governance and transparency. And yes, you know, the future for us is digitizing the processes. It is also digitizing the information that we have, moving away from Word and PDF, and in some respects moving away from Excel, because we would view that information as being dead information. It can't be analyzed, and it can't be analyzed, and it can't be automated, and you can't implement the future of machine learning and so on and that. So that's what's key for us here in the fifth dimension.
Message to get across is that we all are working since long time ago digital. We work in digital format, we work on a screen, but there is a big difference between a digital format and a digitized and digitalized process where the data is actually connected, not just isolated and stored in a digital format, yes, but it's not interconnected, and whatever happens or whatever impact is made in one of the documents is not communicated or not necessarily actively affecting the other items that are related to it, unless there is a human behind processing, but that has time delays and not as powerful as a machine really analyzing that.
So if you consider your working day or your working month on a project that you're currently working on, one of the processes is the update of the project status, the commercial status, and then the monthly report into your client. Now, in general, that monthly report happens at the beginning or middle of the following month. So it is already late, and the information that is coming to the client has already changed. So it's not accurate at the time of reading the report. Principles with the fifth dimension is that the clients have the possibility and the power to log on from anywhere, any mobile device, and see the status of their project and see the evolutionary status of their project as it develops. Not only cost, but risk, change management, value engineering, value management, and so on. And that for them becomes a powerful tool because you don't need to report anymore. It's automated. So as you can see from the kind of this snippet of the dashboard on the left, you have this working tool where you can click in and out of, and it interconnects and records all the information as it's been uploaded and updated on the platform. So as you update an estimate, let's just say at a closing stage of one of the design stages, your client has the possibility to look at this revised estimate against previous estimates, against previous budgets, or against the budget, using a dashboard solution, and they have the opportunity to select what they want to see and how they want to see it. Now that's great for clients that have a good understanding of this, but for clients that are immature in relation to data analytics, they have the possibilities for these standard views. That means that they can get used to looking at this information in this way and logging on at any time. The same applies, of course, for the risk management and as the project is running for the invoices against contracts and so on. So to digitize and automate the traditional tools and processes, that's what the fifth dimension is really about. It's removing the need for complex Excel sheets for budgeting and estimating and controlling, removing the need for the monthly reports, as we mentioned before. It's removing the need for preparing monthly presentations and reporting, because you can use the cloud-based solution dashboard capability as a presentation tool if your client needs to present it to the board, to a steering group, to whoever is the powers that be for them, or also for you as a QS reporting back into your board or your management, and removing the need for project status emails. And the most powerful aspect of this is providing a database tool for benchmarking. It's the collection of information along the project lifecycle and storing it historically and analyzing it in order to improve the next project. If you had to take, for example, let's just say Dublin City Council had stored all the schools that they have developed over the last decade or 2 decades in the fifth dimension, they could analyze all risks. They could analyze all design progression and estimate evolution. They could analyze all invoicing, change management, everything, to understand what are the repetitive risks on their projects, what are the repetitive changes that occur on their projects, and when and where does the budget and estimates collide or change more often. And from that, you can begin to set up future projects more accurately with a better understanding of what the risks will be, a better understanding of what the budget should be, and a better understanding of how to control. And that becomes a very powerful tool for developers and public institutions. As I mentioned, we move away from the common tools like Word and Excel, and we standardize these processes. And one of the biggest standardizations to come out in our industry for cost managers and quantity surveyors in the recent years is ICMS, the International Construction Measurement Standards. And the ICMS is the foundation and the fundamentals behind the fifth dimension. So in relation to project information, cost breakdown structures, all of that aspect follows the principles of ICMS. And our methods of measurements and standards will change in Ireland, they will change in the UK, and they will follow the ICMS. So we are moving more towards the ICMS global standard as an industry, locally in Ireland, in the UK, as I say, but also globally. And that's the most powerful thing here, is that you can upload your bills of quantities, your estimates, your stage 1 or stage 2 cost plans following an ICMS structure, and it will store it and analyze it for you. And that becomes valuable for us as QSs, but also for our clients. And the database itself can collect, first of all, store and analyze a vast quantity of information, much quicker than we would as humans. So setting up that initial case, business case, and initial budgets becomes a much more accurate but supported process. And as I mentioned before, from a client's perspective, you now are not receiving an email or monthly reports. As a client, you're logging on to see your status. And as you can see on the left here, the client can see the difference between the budget and the estimate. They can view the different revisions of the estimate over time as you, as the cost manager, upload your estimates and begin to track change. They can see the change management process, the value of the change management process, the value of the value engineering process. They can see the full contact information and project information for their project, including the gross floor area, net floor area, location, size, quality, facade gross floor area metrics, the type of building it has, whether it has a basement, whether it's not. And these are powerful information, because currently we're not collecting any of this. We are probably in Word format and PDF, but can anybody tell me where they're stored within your organization, or even the client's organization for that matter?
It is about doing it up front, right? We all end up digging into our old documents whenever we need to hunt or harvest that data. And we end up doing it many times. Every time we actually need to remember what was this, what was that. This is about doing it once up front. And actually utilizing this information, not only just for an archive, but actually to get something in return, which is the visuals, which is the analytics and the comparisons, etc. That can be also used on other reports if necessary, because that's how it's set in the project.
Indeed. And even for the risk management, allowing the stakeholder groups to be able to log on and manage risks in the structures and standards that have been implemented in the fifth dimension, running the Monte Carlo analysis in order to understand the contingency and risk profile of your particular project at any stage, and then the recording and tracking of that risk update and mitigation along the entire project lifecycle. So you can see at any moment the historical story around the risk management process, whether it was good or poor. And that is quite an important aspect for us, again, I would say, especially in public projects. So, yeah, so managing the entire commercials of a project lifecycle. And as we mentioned before, we talked about developers, we talked about public institutions, but it's the hierarchy structure that is key here, especially for large developers. At business level, they'll divide up their investments into portfolios, whether it is built to rent apartments, whether it is standard apartments, housing, office space, high grade or low grade. Those portfolios are divided, and then those portfolios are divided into projects, and those projects into building level. Now you can begin to isolate the business level information into these categories to analyze your project information, your commercials, your risks historically, to understand how you can improve value for you as a business, but also improve value for potentially the purchasers of these buildings in the future. And that is something that's very interesting, looking at the metrics of cost drivers and key risk areas along the project in order to be able to plan better, to make better decisions, to look at better value engineering possibilities, and so on. So again, hierarchy levels is something that repeats itself quite often, like in the ICMS structure, like we have also in NRM and IR. And to create a centralized database for the construction. So as I mentioned, the byproduct of working with the fifth dimension on a daily basis means that you're continuously logging data into the database, and that database can be fully accessible for you on your projects, but also you as a company or even a developer has access to the entire database of all information. Obviously, the confidential information you cannot see, but you can begin to see metrics. You know, cost per square meters in Dublin for apartment buildings, or cost per square meter for university student accommodation in Limerick, or whatever the case may be. The bigger the data set, the more powerful the tool will be. And not just on a national level, but also on an international level. You can benchmark against projects in Copenhagen, for example, to understand why Denmark can build cheaper, or why they're more expensive for apartment construction, university construction, car parks, you name it. And that will begin to raise this kind of value level and quality level about the decisions that we take and why we take them. And of course, a centralized database, as I mentioned, for all construction. So cost, risk, and time benchmarking for project 1, 2, or 3. If it is apartments you're investing in, if it is public offices, if it is hospitals, if it is schools, you can analyze the benchmarking in the database to get a better and more clear picture of your project at the beginning, in order to be able to set the project budget, but also understand what are the risk profiles, the standard risks, as I mentioned, for these projects that exist in the database, and how can they help us in setting our risk profile for our project before we even start. And it's very cheap to make decisions on screen rather than having to make decisions in real life and projects as they're developing. So it costs you nothing to build a theory and the probability for these projects. And this is what the power of the database will allow you to do.
It puts aside the discussion, right? Puts aside the doubt and the questioning, so that you just prove it, and someone really disagreed and can prove it with their own figures, right? But at least you know where is it coming. The fact that it is all standardized and assures that the scope is also aligned.
Yeah. So, and that's I guess one of the most powerful aspects of the fifth dimension. Not only the reporting in our day-to-day activities, but the power of a national database, or even an internal database for your company or our company. It's key. And again, I mentioned earlier on, you know, it's using internationally recognized standards to build the foundations of this platform is what we have implemented. And interconnectivity with other platforms is key. It's not an estimating tool, so we'll be able to link with the other estimating platforms. You can import in CSV, for example, out of Excel or Microsoft. And export. And export as well.
To whichever is the project archive, if that needs to be dead and you know, archived and fixed and printed or whatever is needed.
For sure. And the future for us and where we're going with this, with the fifth dimension, is AI for analytics, using artificial intelligence to analyze the information and to benchmark, and taking that information and applying machine learning so that we can predict project costs, we can predict risk levels, we can predict where your project is going to go because of the historical information we have and the information about the project that you have at the moment, like location, type, quality level, size, so on and so forth. And so perhaps in one respect, removing the need to sit down and look in the drawers and the archives for information, and trying to automate this somehow so that it can be done quite quickly in the initial stages. And as we all know, as cost managers and QSs, the clients want information yesterday. They don't want to wait a week or a month. They want it yesterday. And that's one of the challenges for us, I guess, in our discipline. and using very simple dashboarding for visualizations. It's important so that clients see the metrics that they need, the KPIs, and they can get as complex as they want, or they can be as simple as they want. And finally, closing the loop on circularity. Our process in the construction industry at the moment is linear. We have a start and a finish, and we find it difficult to understand the connection between a start and a finish. So the collection of this information on the projects will allow us to feed it into the beginning of the next, and so on and so on. And coming close to the end here, who is the fifth dimension for? Well, quantity surveying practices for sure, like Cosmos. We will use this platform as the basis for our delivery to our clients. But for other quantity surveying practices who are looking to digitize and move into the next stage of their profession, to build the accuracy around project reporting and control, to collect data and build internal and also provide to national and international databases. And developers, of course, who are looking for a digitized workflow to track their entire portfolio and learn from previous projects to increase value, as I mentioned before. That's key for them. Can we reduce costs by increasing quality? Can we offer that saving back to the marketplace, or do we pocket it?
These are questions very difficult to answer, since every project manager and every firm managing each of the projects will have their own ways of doing so. By having a common source where everybody has to report into, you are standardizing, so you would get the answers because you have certainty that all your projects have been tracked on the same basis, under the same standards.
And the next one, of course, is public authorities. For public authorities, it will offer them full transparency and governance on their projects. So we won't have an issue about what happened when. There will never be a need for an audit, because it's fully tracked if the fifth dimension is used in the way it should be used, so that every project from a public authority perspective is fully transparent. And that has to be the future. That is what Bim is forcing us to do here now. And the last one is investors. Large investors looking, again, like public authorities, looking for transparency on their investments. And they will have access, if necessary, as a stakeholder to the platform to be able to get the updates and understand where their investment is going. So I think the fifth dimension, we have one small quick video, and then we're kind of finished. There is some music with it, but I guess it doesn't work on the presentations.
We can sing. Tick.
Yeah. So most of the video is based on what I said in terms of dashboards, budget control, risk control, contracts, all of these aspects of quantity surveying and cost management, making it a powerful tool in terms of data and data analytics and transparency for the project at all levels, building project portfolio and business, and assessing against budget and estimates, previous estimates, what has changed, change management along the entire project lifecycle. It becomes the core thing of how we work on our
What is the story? What is the evolution? All these questions can be answered because it's a database, so you can actually track different revisions and changes and stages of it.
And benchmarking, as we said, is a powerful aspect of the data and the data set that will be applicable to all here, I guess, and available to all.
And because the information is interconnected, it's also easy to track the risk, but also the actual cost against value, against what was planned and what is actually on the budget.
And as you can see, available on all mobile devices. So in that sense, I think, let me just skip this on here. Yeah, I think we're finished.
All right. Look, thanks, guys. Yeah, that was going to be my first question to you: is how can people contact you?
Take your phone out and take a picture of this, and it'll take you directly to our LinkedIn page or our phone numbers.
We are all over LinkedIn as well. So if there was Griffin or Elia González, you can find us in LinkedIn. We have also a lot of content, not only as the fifth dimension, but as Cosmos for quantity surveyors, related to BIM and 5D and digital costing.
And I'm in Limerick, obviously. We're in Bedford Row, so pop into the office and let's grab a cup of coffee if anybody's interested in having a chat, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a stunning data set you're going to have at the end of all of this, and I think there's a huge need for businesses to be able to analyze this data and extract value that we've been walking straight past for, you know, so many years. I was particularly encouraged to see the ICMS being used.
Yeah.
You know, that is that's a big one, and of course it broadens the scope. We have so many Irish construction firms operating on international markets that it's vital that we have, you know, a common standard rather than having to delve into each individual. So I think that, you know, as that gains traction, we're going to see some more amazing value being generated. Look, we're going to have more questions hopefully at the end of the session. So for all of the audience, please feel free to punch your questions into chat as we go through this. And we're going to try and get these questions answered for you at the end of the session. Anything that we can answer live on, we will do. So as you see there, Elia already answered a question there from one of the participants. So look, thanks for that, guys. We're going to see you again at the end of the session. I think we're in a position now to hand over to Aidan O'Connell from Punch Consulting. Are you there, Aidan?
Yeah, here, loud and clear, to be fair. Yeah. So let's see. I'm not a big fan of Zoom, so we'll try and get this to work now.
You'll be a fan at the end of this.
Well, I'll be a fan of this. Yeah. Okay, we'll try it. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah, you've come through there. We're looking at what looks like a website. Would that be right?
Yeah, I just want to do a small introduction to who Punch Consulting Engineers are for people who don't know us. So like we have over 100 employees. We're over 48 years in the industry, civil, structural, but we go through a lot of disciplines on it. As I said, my name is Aidan O'Connell. I'm a director of one of the companies for the last couple of years. I've been working with the company since I came out of college, really, which is over 20 years ago now, which went in a blink, really. But I've been through a boom and a bust, and hopefully another boom. And in that regard, this talk is mainly to do with modular construction and how the construction industry in my time has kind of evolved to get into the more, it's kind of like a buzzword at the moment, modular, but it seems to be the only way to deliver the vast number of primarily residential units to the market that needs to be done. So with that, I prepared kind of a small video to go through where we are and what we're doing in the industry. And we formed a couple of partnerships with a number of people who are going into the modular construction side of things, where we provide the engineering, some of the manufacturing, and some of the monitoring on site. So if this works for me now. So as I said, I'll just go through this video. It's only a few minutes long, but it'll give you an idea. So the first thing, what we've done is, and I probably want to go through with, is that we are, I'll go down to the end of this, probably the better to show the pitch, show the end product for people who aren't in the industry. So at the moment, we formed a partnership with Kilsarn, who've set up a precast factory to produce precast panels delivered to site. And our role within them is design, detailing, sending the files to them. And the factory is one of the most advanced factories in Europe. It's brand new, for want of a better word, and they are robotic in nature. So the manpower is down compared to traditional precast factories, and we have to supply the information to the factory in a certain format that the robots within the factory can make these panels automatically. And you'll see through the presentation here, it's quite an impressive little unit that a lot of big precast manufacturers are getting away from manpower, because obviously manpower out there on the market at the moment is a resource that's badly wanted, whether it's in the engineering calculation side of thing or actually physically manpower on site. There is a lack of that down there, which is probably one of the main threats to delivering these residential numbers that they're talking about. So I'll just go back to the thing. So when we started up this partnership with Kilsarn, one of the things we needed to do was analyze it. So when you get sustainability in modular, you kind of need to be able to manage how buildings are analyzed in a more sustainable way, a more economical way, a more efficient way. So at the very outset, we build a 3D model and we analyze it in 3D with the door opes and the window opes and all that sort of stuff and the floors, to get a more accurate answer, a more representative answer of what actually is going to be built on site. So what you see here is the analysis package carrying out the analysis. So the model is built in such a way, analysed in such a way that it gives exactly where the stresses are in the building, what the loads are coming down the building, and where the sensitive points are. This is actually Kilsarn's factory themselves. So you can see there that, and we'll go through this, the robots are making the reinforcement that goes into the panels automatically welded within the factory, placed automatically in the factory. And you can see yourself that it's very robotic orientated. Spacers are put in, everything is digital, computerized, even the concrete coming to site, being placed on the shutters, even the making of the concrete itself, like there's not many people around there. Then if it's a sandwich panel, it's a different form of system now, to be fair, from solid wall. They have been put in, lift the site, very low handling power on the site. But one of the key things that I've come across in the last couple of, I don't want to wash over, I suppose, Kilsarn, go back a second. Very little people, very high quality product, very automized. There's no inferring of any details. It's made exactly as per this model. So, being a BIM level 2 compliant company, punches are, like, we're big into Revit and Kobe and and getting certified, which we are. And all those things, you kind of look to the market that Revit has a stronghold on it, but working with Tekla and working with fabricators, and this is the other end of it, like steel fabricators and precast detailers, they don't use Revit, they use a package called Tekla Structures, which this is. And what that actually does is it models everything exactly as is. Now, I'll go into more detail that now in a second, but one of the ways this is done, like it's modeled in 3D, that you can actually go in and see what actually reinforcement is in the panel. You can see how many bars are in it, what grout tubes are in it, what the cover is, what spacers, everything is quantified. So at the end of this job, Kilsarn can quantify down to the nearest bolt how much was used in this building and get an accurate cost, which kind of goes back to the data thing of how much this building actually costs. There's no inference of how much it is. That's exactly what it is. So for instance, what we're doing here now, you can see a full 3D view coming through in a few minutes of the entire structure. That's the reinforcement model within the concrete structure for the entire building. From this then, each panel is taken by, there's a couple of programs to go through, by the robots in the factory, and they make it to that exact specification robotically, which is hugely interesting and very innovative for the way we do things and where the precast industry do things at the moment. Like traditional methods would be you do an AutoCAD drawing, or you might do a 3D drawing, but you're physically filled up with a 2D image that you have to make this 3D element. This situation has a 3D component to it that makes a 3D element, that makes it physically. So it's quite advanced technique and quite, as I said, innovative. But it's been driven by the fact that the factory is 3D orientated, it's robotic orientated, and it's probably leading towards more like modular kind of construction. So not only that, I suppose, I'll just move on there a little bit. You can see it's quite interesting. So to get into the building side of it, that's what you end up inside. So this is one of the 8-story buildings. It's not completed yet that they're doing. And you can see the panels have been erected on site and erected. So it's modular in a flat pack sort of way, being erected on site. So the floor slabs, the walls, but it's precast. Nothing magically new. It's more innovative and modular in the way that it's being constructed. But again, it's new. So while concrete is one material, civil engineers do lots, steel is another. So we've gone into modular homes with our partner, the Big Red Barn, who are based up in Mayo, and they produce steel frame buildings. And again, we analyze it in a steel frame. We put the timber, steel structure, everything in it. Check all the stresses, deflections, make sure it's all certified. Stand over it, make sure green is good, by the way, just for those who are non-engineers. And again, that's all detailed in a 3D environment. That's given then to the Big Red Barn for them to do their modular and how it's put together. The structure is broken up essentially into a flat pack structure, and then it's brought to site in that modular. So this is kind of a way of how they pull it together. So the walls come in, everything comes in piecemeal. It's broken up into pieces, the roof, the whole lot, and you end up with a modular 2-story house, standard enough, open plan living, bedrooms, etc., fully fitted. And they've been going now for the last number of years. So this is one of the modular homes they're erecting on site there. So you can see they're starting to put it's broken up into pieces that come to the factory on site. Windows and everything all come on site. So when the external cladding that gets fixed on the site, that's the building put together there now at the moment. We'll get to a few pictures. That's them finishing off the render on the outside and putting the roof capping on the outside. This literally takes days to put up. The internal finishes take a little bit longer, but the main structure itself, it's weathertight fairly quick. Same putting the kitchens and stuff in. That obviously the finish takes a bit of time, and these are a few pictures of the completed building inside. So it's a double height space, steel frame, modular building. I think it's a 3-bed house, this one. Open plan kitchen. And I'll see the finishes on the outside. That's the external then. So you've stone on the outside, whatever the finishes are, roof on it, family home, aerated home. So like these can be done. And then when we were looking, that's the concrete and the steel side of things. We're obviously getting into modular, into the industry of precast. Now this is done a lot in the UK, where they bring stair cores as modular boxes, and they bring flights and precast. So it all comes as one unit. So I let this play on it a little bit. So we're doing this in Limerick. Ross, you'll probably be aware of this now. In a while you're walking down the street, cup of coffee, you might see one of these lifted in. So at the moment, we did each of these as individual rings that the contractor wanted to do. Limerick is a tight site. It's made off site, less manpower, less scaffolding, less risk, and it's all pulled together. On site itself, the stairs are lifted in. So these are going in the next couple of weeks, and there's a few finished pictures that are coming up soon. So this is one entire piece of structure for a 3-story building, 4-story building in the city centre that's going to be lifted in and erected in a couple of weeks, given the levels they're doing on it. So it won't take long from the jump. Speed is one of the key things, and the weather was one of the other, because trying to make this, and it's a curved stairs too, which is difficult enough to do in precast, to make this on site in the weather conditions in January and February wasn't the best idea in the world. They wanted to make it off site and ring fence. The fact their program would justify it. So this is the half landing slabs that are coming together as precast on site. That's one of the rings being fixed down below, with the other ring that fits on top of it to get it going together. They're tied together then with grout tubes and tie bars. That's one of them, made and poured. It's fair face finished concrete, so you can see the picture there. The quality of finish is superb, to be fair, what they're doing there. There's rebates and stuff, so it's quite highly engineered and brought to site. So that's the concrete lift shafts, and I think a lot more will go down this road. The contractors will be looking to bring stuff in off site to it's a resourcing issue, it's a quality issue, it's a sustainable issue too, because there's less wastage. And let me jump up to one of the other websites now. I hope this works now. Let me see. Here we go. So we're also working on timber framed house for Glyn Construction, which basically you'll see in Limerick we're doing at the moment. Sorry about the noise now. I'll just turn down the volume a little bit. So what they did was they brought literally on the back of the truck, and it's a system we developed with a company called Glyn Construction and NSI. And NSI approved. Basically, you can see there the roof of the house is coming. Each room comes as a modular structure, and they're all pieced together, fixed on site to get to the end picture. So that's them there being transported into site. And there's a number of these units that the Limerick County Council have purchased to get built for social affordable housing, which we're involved in. So that was about a year's work to get it through the NSI approved, get the details approved on site, get the details and engineering behind it approved. And it's not just engineering in situ, it's engineering through transportation. So carrying it to site, making sure it doesn't distort warp. That's a fully finished unit inside there with kitchens and everything inside there at the moment. So could show it a bit higher maybe. So it's quite interesting to see how it's pieced together, it's protected and lifted into place. So that's probably a good one to pause on. You can see like that's the full roof of a semi-D. So there's another unit next door that needs to be tied in. There's obviously slates and tiles and finishes on the outside that get pieced together, which is very hard to do off-site to bring to site, but fully fitted, fully completed unit. It's definitely the way of the future. To it's going. They've set up their own factory in Limerick to deliver these units. So all weather these things can be made. It's lifting into site is the main issue on it now, to be fair. And then to go back to, I suppose, the Trimble Connect thing a little bit, like this is one of the buildings we're talking to, just to go into a bit more detail on that. And it's more to get into areas on site constructability and tolerances. like Rivet has its limitations to a degree, even though it's trying to sort them out. Trimble are ahead because of the factory on it, and it's just to get a bit of appreciation that you can see there, like you can actually see the reinforcing and how it's bent inside in the beam that's going on. So it's quite interesting to get back into more of an off-site industry, and we're doing that with our partners like Kilsarn, as we said, Big Red Barn and the Steel Modular Home, and Glyn now, which is RBC Modular, and developing for the 3 different materials these off-site to deliver units, semi-D houses, whatever the case may be. And we've been developing these now for, I suppose, the last number of years to get them to a place where we can deliver them to the market, and they meet all the code requirements and all the building regulations and all the design requirements of them, and that they can be made in a controlled environment and delivered to site, which is the key thing, lifted into place in a controlled environment. So as I suppose, as Punch Engineering goes, modular innovation, we're constantly striving to try and get to a stage where we're part of a parcel, as we are with these people that we're developing with, a modular system that delivers the need to the market, that there is such a need for these residential homes. And a lot of these, in fairness, innovative people are developing up these systems to do it. And one of the key stumbling blocks that we find with these is that it's the software to be used, and how they develop these 3D modules and how they bring it to site. So we've been through that ringer to a degree in relation to when we got BIM level 2. It's gone back a number of years now, and how you build stuff in 3D. There's definitely advantages to it, but when you go into the modular world, it's more holistic, that everything has to be brought in as one piece. So there's a bit more work involved. It's not just a BIM issue. There's a way of doing it in such a way that you encapsulate everything that needs to be encapsulated, and how it's built and how it's put together and brought to site in one piece. And my first introduction to all that back in 2006 and 7 with these bathroom pods that were coming from Italy, which we're doing now. And in Ireland here, there's companies that provide that sort of stuff. So this modular, I suppose, movement, for want of a better word, is definitely gaining momentum because there's a demand there. And it's good to be a part of that, from the precast to steel to the timber side of things. So that was, I suppose, my introductory to what what Punch and here are doing on the market as it currently stands.
Thanks, Aidan. That was absolutely brilliant. It was a fantastic eye opener. It's great to see the transition of digital information from design straight through to production, straight through to placement on site, and that's an amazing achievement that we've all been talking about. It's great to see evidence of it. And the fact that there's a number of Irish companies deeply embedded in this one is great. I've often said that the country that can manage to turn the construction sector into an export industry has got a huge advantage over everybody else. There's no two ways about it. And we've seen that in relation to modular, we're pushing that direction. Are you seeing any evidence? I mean, you mentioned there that you brought pods in from Italy a number of years ago. How are your partners doing on the export side? Are they pushing that far yet?
They are not pushing that far yet. It's all inward looking, given the demand for the residential market here. But they're like, business people are aware of the fact Ireland is a small market at the end of the day, and in order for something to be more sustainable, you have to be looking abroad. Now we're at that's a company level decision, but depending on the size of the company and what they want to deliver, they are looking abroad, but they're not looking abroad yet. They don't need to. But they will be doing it in such a way. Now, the issue with that is that a lot of the broad companies, a lot of construction industry is driven by European legislation, and given that the UK and Brexit and all that, there's a bit of crossover in trying to find out where legislation and code requirements stand in relation to developing of those and what sign off and not sign off. But yes, the next natural progression for the likes of, I suppose, Kilsarn and Big Red Barn and RBC Modular would be to be looking at the UK market, I would think. Not that I'm in the know, unfortunately, but I suspect that that would make sense to me, for a company to go there, because in fairness, Ireland is a great country for construction and innovation. Like you look at the BIM level take up in Ireland compared to the rest of Europe, we're up there with the best of them. I think India are ahead of us or something else like that. So as innovation goes, this island is definitely one of the leaders as I can see. And the knowledge here is unbelievable as well. It's a matter of packaging that and selling that in a commercial way, given the price of materials now and all that. But yeah, it's definitely achievable, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems it's a great one. Look, thanks for coming in with that. That's you know, absolutely brilliant. I always enjoy seeing software in these things too. It's kind of near and dear to my day job. So yeah, and Tekla is obviously your go-to on the structural analysis side of things. Yeah.
It is at the moment. To be fair, you got Tekla because it's an easier package to analyze precast into. Easier as in it's more user friendly. There's a better user interface. And then that was the link with Tekla structures. Now there's a lot of documents and YouTubes about how the link all works. It doesn't really, to be fair. A lot of structural analysis packages don't really link into the Revit / production model, if I want to put it correctly.
IFC, is that playing nice for you? Or...
IFC, we don't really deal with IFC at the moment. When we export this, we export it's kind of a 3D file that's called a PMXL file that's generated, and that goes to the factory. We don't actually deal with IFC due to the fact that IFC is kind of variable enough as you kind of hit it there. It's hit and miss to a degree, and I'd say partly it's got a bad name for being used wrongly and being exported incorrectly, and partly because it's not all there either, you know. But I think it's more user error than actually IFC error, you know. To be an entity that's compatible to all packages is an achievement in itself, you know. So
absolutely. I mean, we're still waiting for that universal translator. We're never getting.
No, I don't.
Every time you have a shot at it, somebody comes up with something else. Yeah. But there's certainly a lot of work to be done there. But I think even when we look at the value of these projects and the work involved, I mean, when you're going through from, once you have a workflow that is, you know, in some way stable, you know, if you can hit, you know, that Pareto 80/20 thing and get 80% of what you need without with automation,
exactly,
manually handle the last 20%, you're still streets ahead of everything else.
You are 100%. Yeah. It is like the IFC is handy. A lot of the times what we do in here is we export the IFC file from Revit and overlay it and draw our model and Tekla on that, and it's pretty accurate for that. But again, you still have to go back to the 2D to make sure you haven't missed or there's something incorrectly brought through wrongly. But invariably it's 90 odd percentile correct, you know, which is good, which is, as you said, once you're getting to that level of accuracy, you take that all day long rather than trying to go to paper mode. So yeah, we do use that a lot. But I am, as I said, like coming from a BIM level 2 and getting the BSI accreditation and then getting the NSI accreditation through Revit for BIM, like it kind of Tekla's opened my eyes a little bit. When you like, and fabricators are now that I'm one, fabricators in steel and then in precast and whatever other medium, timber, whatever the case may be, they are more advanced in the software. The packages that they use are more advanced because they're more tailored towards exactly detailing what you're going to get, where Revit is there to a large degree, but it's just a huge animal of a package that you can see. Like it's just the from a civil structural perspective, Tekla is far easier to use than Revit, but obviously architectural and MEP would have a different take on that because they have different disciplines and different usages to use, you know, and libraries and stuff like that mightn't be as handy to use in Tekla structures. But from an engineering aspect, like Revit and Tekla, there's one wouldn't be better than the other now if we were representing drawing. So one of the things we are looking at is that, and it is getting to the point of Revit being subscription based and the rest of it, like, and the cost of it next, is there a rival out there that you can turn to when the overhead of such a package is too dear? And that will happen at some stage, and I'd be happy for a civil structural point of view, not so much civil, more structural. Tekla does have well in hand, you know. Now, time will tell, Paul, whether that actually comes to pass.
Look, I would like to say it is a bit of a swamp now when it comes to software in relation to all of this stuff. I mean, there's so many different licensing models for people to take into consideration. various functionality, various use cases. Some applications work better in different use cases. It's just the way it is. Look, I think we'll leave that there. I think, and thanks for that, Aidan. And I hope you'll stick around for the questions at the end.
Well, of course, yeah.
With that, I think we should move over to Tamara. So, Tamara Barahona, thank you very much for joining us. And I will just leave it over to you now. Are you ready?
Okay, I will share my screen.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, we can see you at the moment anyway. Just
Okay. Let me know if you see my PowerPoint.
It's just me you're looking at now. Or not me personally, but my name.
Okay.
Tamara, you're sharing the Zoom, the Zoom
Yeah,
screen.
try sharing
Yeah.
this one. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
You
Yeah.
got PowerPoint there.
Okay, so you see it now, right?
Yep, all good.
Okay, so I am Tamara, and I'm, as part of Tantric 4D, I'm going to present the use of 4D BIM for pre-construction planning. So first, I would like to introduce myself. So as I said, I'm Tamara Barahona. I'm from Argentina. I'm a civil engineer, and I work for Tantric 4D as a BIM coordinator. That would mean that I'm in charge of creating and coordinating 3D models using different kinds of BIM software, like, for example, Revit. So I provide BIM support to clients, the engineers, technicians, and whenever it's necessary. I help assisting clients to implement new technologies, digital technologies in all their projects. I assist our company, Tantric 4D, to work to reach the BIM Level 2 accreditation. And I assist the BIM or BDC managers with the research and development of new innovative digital technologies in the architectural, engineer, construction, and operations sector. So in the BIM world, I have been working in some projects such as Hanover Q commercial development. It was here in Dublin, where we developed the as-built drawings and also a final 3D model. Then 2420 Amsterdam Eve, it's a building located in New York, where with my colleagues we were in charge of doing all the modeling and the coordination of the services. Then, so Vivante Newport Center, it was an assisted living building in California, where I was doing the coordination of the services, and there was a team that was in charge of doing all the modeling, and the same scope for the Grady Center for Advanced Surgical Services that was located in Atlanta. So to introduce you to Tantric 4D, so our company offers a wide range of digital services in the ACO industry. And although we are based in Sligo, we work in projects through all Ireland and the rest of Europe and the UK. So our focus is to assist our clients with digital technology solutions from the design stage until the project completion. So why you should choose Tantric 4D? We use the most innovative technologies and softwares that are available on the market. We are digital leaders in the ACO industry. We serve many sectors such as residential, industrial, engineering, civil engineering, pharmaceutical, and so on. And also the company encourages all the time the employees to develop new skills and provide continuous training following our career path. So to speak a little bit about our values as a company, so we work really hard to be industry disruptors using, as I said before, the most innovative technologies and softwares, and that's why we are becoming fast digital leaders. So yeah, we offer our clients quality assurance and complex problem solving, and of course integrity and honesty in all the jobs that we do. So yeah, we cooperate with the clients and the client teams to deliver a collaborative environment with the digital workflows and technologies. So our services are for the BIM, or virtual planning, 3D laser scanning, digital strategy consulting, master facility digital twin, 3D digital animations, and also BIM coordination. And as I said before, we work in different areas, so civil engineer, pharmaceutical, residential, and these are our clients. So to get into 4D BIM, I would like to start explaining a bit what is 4D BIM. So 4D BIM is the addition of a new dimension, that is the time, to a 3D model. And this would be linking a schedule or a construction task or activities to the 3D model. This can be done with different 4D BIMs, including Synchro, Asta, Power Project, or Autodesk Navisworks. We use in Dantec Synchro. So yeah, so to sum up, how can we get a 4D BIM model? We need to merge a 3D model that we can have it from Revit or IFC or SketchUp or FBX, and also the construction program that you can have it from Primavera, Asta, Power Project, or Microsoft Project even. And once we merge that, we can get a 4D BIM model. So why to choose 4D BIM models? So the 4D helps to improve the old planning techniques and also visualize the construction methodologies. It helps the clients to understand all the complex projects through a 4D model, and that's because when you have, for example, a 3D model, you can see the final product, but when you have a 4D model, you can see how it's going to be built. So that's much better for the clients to understand. Then also when you use traditional construction programs, it's difficult for the planner or the construction team to see or visualize all every single task to be done. But then when you have a 4D model, you can see every single task that is needed to be done during all the project. So that's a good benefit for 4D. So the specific applications of 4D BIM, those could be spatial planning, constructability analysis, logistics management, creative strategies, risk mitigations, health and safety management, sequencing of works. And then it has a lot of benefits, such as, so 4D facilitates project accelerations, enhances communication, improves certainty in project methodology. It aids development of risk mitigation strategies. It improves the schedule certainty, detects sequencing errors, enables safe spatial planning, increases the cost certainty, and reduces health and safety risks. So we're going inside the main topic that would be the use of 4D BIM for pre-construction planning. Let's start with the traditional pre-construction planning method. So traditionally, what the project teams would do is they get together and put a plan in place for the project, reviewing some, in order to discuss things like the scope, the schedule, the construction methodologies, resources, budgets, health and safety, and all the associated risk with the project. And the way they do this is reviewing a 3D model if they have one, but mainly with 2D drawings and all PDFs and associated information to understand what is going to be built. So they have on one side a model or 2D drawings and a schedule, and they will discuss how it's going to be built, but it's difficult to understand or to explain the methodologies when you have just 2D things or PDFs and slides. That's why more and more companies nowadays are using 4D to do this, because they see all the benefits, such as, so 4D BIM gives the clients and everyone involved in the project a good perspective or visualization of the construction methodologies by digitally rehearsing the project build through a 4D simulation. This is what I was saying before, that it's much better to see how it's going to be built than just seeing the final product. So 4D BIM also improves the certainty in project methodologies. It improves the communication between all the parts involved in the project, and also allows the teams to digitally rehearse again other things like site logistics, sequencing, spatial planning of work groups, and so on. So when we speak specifically about 4D BIM for pre-construction logistics planning, we can say that the main purpose of pre-construction logistics planning is to ensure that a successful movement of people and material on site. And this is really difficult, mainly when the project is located in a congested place. So 4D comes to help with this because it's much easier to visualize and optimize all the space-related issues or concerns that can happen in projects, such as vehicle access and egress routes, storage area layouts, flow of site people, and the safe operation and movement of the construction plan. So some of the BIM benefits for the pre-construction logistics would be, so it helps to improve the coordination for the delivery of components and materials on site. It permits a better planning for loading and unloading operations. It enables the detailed organization of assembly operations, endorses an efficient site configuration regarding location of facilities and equipment. It promotes a right first time approach, so in order to avoid all the rework. Improves the decision making regarding all the conflicts over space and time. And it also enables the optimization of machinery movement. So I will show you here a short video where we apply the 4D BIM for logistics. You are not seeing it, right? Here we go.
Sorry, Tamara, I don't know if there's meant to be sound with your video.
Okay, so do you still see my screen?
Yeah, we're back on your screen there.
Okay. You were not seeing the video?
Oh, no, we saw the video. There was just no audio with it.
Okay, yeah. So the 4D BIM for pre-construction health and safety, it's also another important topic in the use of the 4D BIM. So for the pre-construction health and safety planning has as a purpose to set some requirements that needs to be followed in order to ensure the health and welfare of the people working on site. So this is why 4D BIM helps in the use for this, because you can continue monitoring and visualize all the potential risks that can be that can happen during all the projects. So the benefits for health and safety would be it enables the anticipation of workspace clashes or issues over the time. So for the workshops, make it easier for the project team to identify and mitigate risks. It also permits the digital illustration of site safety plans and procedures. Endorses the testing of safety strategies on projects. It enables the detailed planning of high-risk activities that are really used on site. And it improves the robustness of machinery movement or tracking plans. So, okay, here are two pictures of examples where we were working with the spatial planning for health and safety. In the first one, you will see the idea was to plan the position of these machineries or during all the piling works. And in this example, it was a spatial planning of this mobile crane during the main crane erection, that is this one. So then moving forward to 4D BIM for constructability analysis. So the main purpose of the constructability analysis is to identify and anticipate issues or challenges that can happen on site during all the project before moving from the design stage to the construction stage. So it allows at all the parts involved in the project to test and try different design or sequencing alternatives in order to get the best way of doing all the project and to avoid the rework and to identify any time-space conflicts in the 4D model. So when we don't digitize the constructability analysis in a 4D model, it's difficult to find all these issues or challenges, and this can lead to construction delays, redesigns, and low productivity. That's why the benefits for constructability analysis would be that it avoids the delays caused by construction sequence errors or omissions. It reduces rework due to design changes. It improves the productivity as the project teams have a strong construction methodology before going on site. And also it helps to reduce the administration and general cost during the construction. So I have another video here. It also doesn't have any sound, so
Do you want to talk over that one and tell us what we're seeing?
Yeah, so it's a building located in London where we develop all the 4D. It's one of the highest buildings, and it's a residential development. And this was, as you can see, it's in synchro. We have the timeline bar here, the week here, how it's being developed, and also here the percentage. And this is all the animation.
Would these be offsite components? Would these have been created offsite?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Paul. It's Connor Tansey here. I'll just talk over. Tamara was, I suppose, late joining the company, and this one was kind of already in motion.
Yeah, so, go for it.
Yeah. This was for a modular construction company in the UK, Thai Construction and Vision. So basically, all their modules are built off-site, and basically, with it being in London and Croydon and being a kind of a busy area, they wanted to do, a sequenced build of all the modules coming to site, but also logistics was a huge part of this as well, for delivering times of all the lorries coming in and out, also the erection of all the cranes. So when this is complete, it'll be one of the highest modular builds in the world. It's at 41 stories high on paper, but I think it's actually going to be 51 when complete. So we were involved at early design stage with Tide and Vision on this one, because with all the stakeholders involved and all the authorities in London, they wanted to use this, and now they've brought it actually on site, and we're given live updates then every probably 2-3 months of the build and how it's going. So they use this for, they're all their team meetings. They use it for health and safety inductions, and obviously showing all the powers that be what's going on. So yeah, look, it's a very interesting project. Every case study probably be released in the next 2 weeks with Synchro as well in Bentley. So there'll be a lot more information coming out on this as well in the next few weeks.
Thanks for that, Connor, and also thank you, Tamara, for bringing us through. I think it's fantastic to be able to see some proper use cases of 4D. I think, I've been looking at this tech for a long time, since the early days of Navisworks, I guess, and it was always kind of hard to convince people of the value of it. And I think Tamara's presentation spells out the value of 4D in a lot better than I would have done in the past. So thank you very much for that.
No problem. That's one of our biggest, I suppose, is the adoption barriers, trying to break it down with clients. There is huge benefits.
Yeah.
And we'd love to be able to publish work we do through LinkedIn and social media platforms all the time, but we are working on some kind of high clients that we can't show it. So we're grateful that we were allowed to show this today, and I hope everyone kind of sees where you can go to it. And obviously there is a mixture in there, like what you're seeing on the screen is done through gaming and kind of rendering software. So that wouldn't be all for 4D. The 4D is the main kind of, the building blocks of the project. So there is a mixture in there as well. For example, they wanted to go to the fire authorities in London to show them how they're actually building it bit by bit, but they wanted to make it more graphically pleasing rather than kind of, through synchro, as we use as a software, it has its limitations too. So that's where we kind of bring in kind of, game and rendering applications where we can do things that we can't do in synchro.
Yeah, I think as an industry, we have a job of work ahead of us still in communicating what we do.
Yeah.
And making it understandable, it's easily understood by people outside of the industry, The industry is becoming more and more complex, as we know, and it's up to us to ensure that what we're doing is communicated to them in a way that they can understand at all levels. Local authorities, investors, developers, they need to know what we're doing. That's fantastic. Okay, I think we
can fast forward that, Tamara. Yeah, that's near the end of the video.
Cool.
Paul, if you want to go on to the Q&A, that would be great.
Yeah, I think we'll move that on to Q&A. So I've just had a quick scan through chat there. And I think most of the questions have been answered already. Sorry, I think there's just one there in relation to value chain. I'm not sure if it's value chain that's being referred to here or, let's see, give me 1 second here. Yeah. So could you this one is going to Aidan, I believe. Could you describe or propose the best modular construction value chain that delivers value for offsite construction? I guess the question really there is about, I suppose, a workflow that's working for you.
Well, I suppose what we've done with it depends on the material you use and the workflow you use. I suppose really what it boils down to. But if you take an example of the precast apartment blocks, which is kind of a huge, obviously there's a lot of money involved in that. The workflow we have at the moment is that if you build the model in Analysis 3D and analyze it, and then you build the model in Tekla Structures, which is kind of like the 4D aspect of it that people are touching to, you actually get at the end, and this is only being developed now with Kilsarn and what we're doing there with our partners there, is that you actually get an accurate cost of how much the structure costs for that building per square meter, because it's built in a 3D environment. So to go back to, I suppose, the question on workflow, like there's only at the initial stages you will not get, if you're looking for an accurate cost, and that's why there's contingencies built into bill of quantities day in day out.
Aidan, that's why I'm here. I'll help you on that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's why. Yeah, we've been messaging over LinkedIn there a little bit, which kind of helped. I think that's where the link comes in. Is that the 4D aspect of this thing, and what Ross is kind of innovating. It's interesting, to be fair, like that Kilsarn. And it's an eye-opener to me to a large extent, being from a consultancy point of view, is that you based everything on cost per square meter. That's how they initially developed their initial costs and budgets and contingencies and price for market and fluctuations, etc. But it's getting down now when you get into modular that everything is accountable, everything is measurable, everything is deliverable. The man hours that it take to do it, the erection of it, even the stuff, then that's very impressive what Vision and what they're doing there. Like they can work out to a large extent how the program and timeline and man hours and cost, etc. So I don't think the workflow is there yet. I don't think the volume of data is there yet. So we'll still need quantities of errors for a while yet, I'm afraid, guys. Not giving out about quantities of errors. I'm only joking. You can't have it. I'm only joking. But yeah, going from the workflow, I think, look, the data is there. The quantities of error will always be there. And I think the more accurate data, they'll be there. Workflow, you still have to analyze it. You still have to model it. You still have to measure it. You still have to do those tendering stages, cost plans at each of the stages to do it. And I think if that's the question you're asking, I don't think we're there yet that we can actually do a workflow to cost a billion down to the contractor knows to the nearest €10 what's going to cost. It just doesn't work like that. There's too many factors out there, whether data, material, supply, coordination.
Of course,
there's also a design evolution. You know, when a project starts, you start off with sketch-based information, and it develops towards a level of detail. It's why within our BIM environment we have these LOD standards, and you can't implement an LOD 350 or even further in the early stages because you just haven't developed that building functionality yet with your client and with the user group. So. But I think if we can collect this information, this data, we can certainly be more accurate in the earlier stages in our benchmarking square meter prices for sure. Yeah.
And that's where modular comes in, because every supplier will have their own manufacturing process or more delivered process of how they can do what. And that's fairly well defined, especially in the precast industry, is fairly well defined. And I think as we get more into the modular side of things, which will take obviously time, whether it's decades or years, who knows, that data you're doing, obviously, Ross, that'll feed into it. But as it stands, I think we have to stick with the expertise the QSs have. They're never usually that, you know, there's too many, and even with all that, there's still, like, from my experience, there's still variables in there, you know. Like if you lose a week due to weather or cold or wind or craned off and X, Y, and Z, there's only so much you can risk adverse. So going back to the workflow, like there is a process. To quantify that process is always going to be a task in hand. It's not going to ever be a definable task, I don't think, to the degree, but it'll get more accurate is probably a better way of putting it.
Well, I think we have a lot to learn from the manufacturing sector in relation to this anyway. I mean, the manufacturing sector for a very long time has been driven by, you know, really strong digital data. I think we have Alan Hoare on the line here. Alan, would you like to?
Yeah, hi. Someone has turned off my video. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I think it was because maybe I took a call during the time. First of all, just to thank everyone for their presentations this morning. I was a little bit late in joining you, but we do appreciate it. So Paul, Elia, Ross, Aidan, Tamara, thank you so much. I suppose I did throw a question in there, a little grenade in there for Ross. Our bills of quantities will they be continued to be used in the future? I got my answer. What's yours?
Bills of quantities as we know them today, probably not. But in the future, I guess we still have to quantify, we still have to price regardless. Standardization will mean we'll become more accurate and potentially automated on it. But we still have to have a contractual relationship between stakeholders. And for that, there is a monetary return. So we have to try and be able to price it somehow. So I think bills of quantities for sure will. And maybe what will happen, we'll use them even more, but in a more digitized and automated manner. Potentially cloud-based, you know, where we're not emailing stuff anymore. The contractors log on and they price within the cloud-based solution, perhaps. But for sure, we'll continue to use, at least that's my opinion on it. Alan, what about you?
My answer would be very similar, I suppose. I don't like the idea that you can print a document out and at a certain point in time, and that's the definitive kind of quantified breakdown, because we all know that changes have to continue to occur, giving external elements, given internal communication problems, blah, blah, blah. So I always like that. I think there's a company we heard recently, Live Costs, the idea that costs are consistently and monitored and so on and so forth. But a bill of quantities is an invitation to treat someone to a variation. And I think it's time to move on from that. So it's about prompt, reliable cost information, I think, going forward. So listen, guys, I thought it was, I missed the first presentation. I think it was the Elia and Ross, so I'm sorry about that. But I kind of would predict, I wish you well with your new venture as well, your fifth dimension. And my best wishes to Aidan and Tamara also.
Thanks.
And thank you, Paul, for
right,
taking the time.
Thank you.
Tamara, I think you're there. Did you have something to say to add in there, Tamara? Or are you okay?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, listen, yeah, thank you all very much, folks. Thank you to the attendees, the participants. Thank you for the questions that you gave us. And we hope that you'll stick around with us for the rest of the week. Again, we have some great talks coming at you. Tomorrow will be the Bim Gathering Awards. And then we're going to have, you know, back to more talks from industry leaders. And I think if we look at what's happening around us at the moment, all this talk about BIM was always around, you know, people were concerned, quantity surveyors were concerned about being displaced, blah, 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 blah. It's not happening and it won't happen. What's happening is the nature of the jobs that we do are changing. We are moving forward, we are digitizing what we do, and that is how everyone is going to add more value to the work that they're doing. And I think if we can stay on message there and, you know, embrace what's coming at us, we have a new and exciting industry coming at us as we speak. Okay.
So the Gathering Awards tomorrow, and then Wednesday we GMIT are hosting the event, and so just well done to everyone, and thank you. We do appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Paul.